Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 558 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous: Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I am a very big fan of Sigma Chi because of their philanthropic work. In December of 2012, Sigma Chi designated the Huntsman Cancer Foundation as its sole preferred philanthropic partner. On April 12th, 2013, Sigma Chi members presented the millionth dollar raised for cancer research at Huntsman Cancer Institute. And then on June 15th, 2015, Sigma Chi made the largest commitment by a men's fraternity with an $11 million pledge to Huntsman. And in February of 2020, Sigma Chi fulfilled that pledge of $11 million. Then in 2019, Sigma Chi pledged an additional $20 million to be used for women's cancer screening, treatment, and research. And the Sigma Chi name now graces the Huntsman Cancer Institute campus. So it is home to the Sigma Chi International Fraternity sixth floor. And that is a testament to what is possible when you work together towards the common good. Speaking of Sigma Chi, let's meet our next guest. Sig Muller believes that every day you have an opportunity to be the best, the world's best you. That could be a doctor, a nurse, a parent, a spouse, a boss, a teacher, accountant, marketer, whatever your calling is. Any organization, team, or individual has the potential to be the world's best by removing the barriers and unleashing their focus and power. Sig's journey to be the world's best began decades ago, and it is far from perfect, but this is still the middle innings. Now his mission is to inspire, motivate, and help empower others to unleash their inner belief and talents to be the world's best every single day. Welcome to the show, Sig.
Mike, great to be here.
It's fantastic to have you on the show. Always an honor to have a Sigma Chi brother. I'm a huge fan, so I appreciate that. But before we even get to fraternity, you decided on Northwestern University for your undergraduate experience. So I'm wondering, why was Northwestern going to be the best place for you?
Yeah, I think two reasons. I swam in high school. I was an All-American state champ, knew I wanted to swim in college. So I went on some recruiting trips, Stanford, USC, Northwestern. And if you remember, this is a little bit in the Wayback Machine, the Bionic Man in the 70s and 80s, Steve Austin, the $6 million man. I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. And I wanted to build that bionic arm and the bionic eye. And there were only a few programs in the whole country that had that, and Northwestern was one of them. I ultimately changed my major, but that was part of the attraction initially. And I wanted to swim at a Division I school, and those two things intersected for me.
Well, you certainly had some good schools to choose from there. That list is very, very good, I must say. No question about it. And you also joined Sigma Chi fraternity there. What was so special about the Brothers of Sigma Chi that made you
Yeah,
want to join them over the other fraternities on campus?
yeah, pretty cool. And you just articulated a lot of it in your intro. What a
Yeah,
wonderful intro.
yeah.
And my son at Nebraska wound up being a Sigma Chi too.
That's so
And he,
cool.
he graduated. So it was pretty neat to go back and see him go through the whole ceremony.
Yeah.
Um, the Brotherhood, in addition to what you mentioned with the charities, it is an organization that faith is an important thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll kind of chuckle when you're going through the getting to know people. What's important to you at school? They'd ask you that, right? And
Hmm.
and I said, well, faith and family, right? But specific to school, I'm here to do study and learn and graduate with a great degree. I'm here to swim, and the fraternity's the third thing. And they were actually okay with that, as
Hmm.
opposed to take the hill, fraternity's number one, sacrifice academics, we don't care that you're a varsity swimmer. They got that. And in fact, it's fascinating. And I don't think I appreciated this till later on. I missed the weekend for our indoctrination for the ceremony, making us brothers.
Hmm.
And I knew this in advance because I had a swim meet that weekend at the University of Illinois. So I said, guys, this is a problem. I have my swim meet at Champaign-Urbana. You're doing the ceremony here. What can we do? They took the time to call the Sigma Chi chapter at University of Illinois. It was the same weekend they were doing their ceremony.
Get out.
So I stayed at Illinois after my swim meet and did the ceremony there. Pretty
Wow.
cool going the extra mile. And that was the kind of people they were. Plus they had a really cool song, The Sweetheart of Sigma Chi, right?
Yep.
And the ultimate though, their nickname, right, are the Sigs.
Yeah.
So I often tell people the only reason they let me in was my name was already there. So
That's a great story. That's really, really good. And you're right. I mean, you starting with faith, immediately Sigma Chi is going to say, yes, this is a person that understands what we're all about. And so that certainly makes a lot of sense there. And the fact that you had this experience where you could be initiated at another chapter, I mean, that really does kind of show you just how much Sigma Chi really does love their brothers and that reciprocal relationship, I guess, that exists between chapters that you can get initiated anywhere and they will embrace you and make you part of their chapter right away. And the fact
yeah,
that you were able to do that so seamlessly really kind of expands your mind a little bit to say, wow, this is pretty powerful stuff. They've never met me before, yet
yeah,
I'm being initiated with all of their new members at
yeah,
another chapter. That's got to
yeah,
be pretty cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I love that story. That's so good. Now, we should talk about what happened to you on August 23rd, 2024. Talk to us about what happened that day and what were the odds that you were going to survive that?
Yeah, crazy day. I call it day zero. Beginning a new life. I had a sudden cardiac arrest and died. My heart flatlined for 8 minutes, and odds of my living about 8% and walking out of the hospital, and odds of being physically, mentally okay, less than 1%. And we have lots of groups of brothers and family in our life. And I'm alive today because of people I started working with at General Mills in 1995. So, 30 years ago, I met people that became salt of the earth brothers. We were there for the marriage of our children, the birth of our children. The guys invented their own version of a baby shower. We were 30 years later still awesome friends. And I hadn't worked there in 25 years, but these were 12 people. We were golfing together in the day I died. And I had left General Mills to go to work for a company called Survival Inc. Survival Inc's one of the companies that pioneered and invented automated external defibrillators. We were the first to put defibrillators at universities, maybe even your fraternity. We put them on police cars, airlines. That was the thing that would save my life. And I helped lead their marketing and business development. 25 years later, that defibrillator. So when I showed up to golf that day, we're just catching up. Half the guys live out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how's it being an empty nester? Your kids are in college now. How's that? Did any of them join a fraternity or sorority? All the typical catching up stuff. I shared with the guys that, hey, you guys remember I left for this company, the defibrillator company. Well, 2 weeks ago, we had a 25-year reunion for that company. We got together and we're high-fiving, chest bumping, celebrating. We've saved hundreds of thousands of lives because of what we did. I decided the golf course, and I told that story before we were golfing.
Mm-hmm.
Golf course would be a bad place to have my cardiac arrest. Like I had a choice. Uh, I waited till that evening. We were in South St. Paul at a barbecue with all the same people. That's where I had my cardiac arrest. And ironically, one of my friends and it was all the General Mills people again. One of my friends who I'd met 30 years before, he had a mantra he'd always say to his really good friends, and it was, "Brother, I'd give you a lung." He said that 30 years ago. He was the person that gave me mouth to mouth while his wife beat on my chest and gave me CPR. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
Life happens for a reason, and these people intersect. I think God is there and puts them with you. So pretty remarkable. One funny part of it was his wife. The horrible thing. I just died in front of all my friends.
Right.
I, they, air sucked out of the room. And I learned all this later because I obviously don't remember, wasn't conscious. She's pumping on my chest, giving me the CPR, singing the Bee Gees song "Staying Alive" for two reasons. Well, actually, one reason. They teach it to you in when you learn CPR. It's 100 to 120 beats per minute, the right rhythm. But I love the words. Whether you're a brother, whether you're a mother, you're staying alive. And she's singing that, just the optimism with those words in what is this awful situation. So that's what happened on that day. I'll pause there and take a breath.
Wow, that is just an incredible story. And you're right. The right people were around you to pull you out of there. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just unbelievable that you're here, that you survived that. I mean, the chances are slim to none. And you did it, which is just mind-blowing. All right, so you have this mind-blowing thing that happens to you on August 23rd, 2024. Now you believe that everybody has the potential to be the world's best by removing all of these barriers and unleashing their
yeah,
focus and their power. I can understand that, after a big event like that, you certainly feel that way because every day is a gift. I mean, every day
it
was
is.
something that you didn't have before, that incident. So how can the college students listening also remove all the barriers in their life?
Yeah, I'll tell a little bit more of the story because it ties in pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm in the ICU for 7 days. I don't remember anything the first 2.5 days. I had anterograde amnesia,
Mhm.
meaning I couldn't form new memories. But I'm talking to everybody just like we're talking now. And I said one thing to everyone continuously. So, Dr. Mike, if you were my phlebotomist coming in that room, I'd say, "Hi, what's your name?" You'd say, "Mike."
Sure.
And I'd say, "Mike, you are the world's best." I didn't know what I was saying, but I would say it 20 times while you were in the room. I'd tell you, you were the world's best. And you were pretty good at drawing my blood. You didn't have to poke me a bunch of times. You'd finish. I'd tell you 20 more times you were the world's best.
Hmm.
I told the doctors, I told the nurses, I told the janitor, I told family and friends. And I learned this after the fact from my sister and others that were with me that I was saying, "You're the world's best," literally thousands of times. And they wrote it on the whiteboard at the end of my hospital bed. "You are the world's best." So people wouldn't. And I reflected on, you ask yourself, why am I still here?
Yeah.
I mean, why am I still here? And part of that reflection for me came down to, why did I say you are the world's best? Why the heck was I saying that? And I think it was two reasons. I think the first was I wanted to say thanks for people. It's a fancy way of being grateful.
Hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate you. That's great. You're awesome. We don't hear that enough.
No.
We don't say it enough to other people.
No.
But I sure as heck wanted to know everyone coming in that room that I was grateful. And my way of saying it was, "You're the world's best." I think the second reason was I was messed up. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something really bad had happened.
Mm.
I now have an implantable cardio defibrillator in me right here. And I knew I became my own hype man. So if you think about being on a team, you're cheering for others, you're helping others, you're being the best teammate you can. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I needed the doctor, the nurse, my friends, everyone who came in that room to be the world's best version of themselves for me so that I would be okay.
Mm.
So I became, the team leader and an athlete I had been my whole life, rolled into a hype man to motivate these people, even though it was in this horrible state. I wanted people to be fired up and know that I need your world's best.
Mm.
Um, so it was that did it. But what can people do
Yeah.
in their daily lives? I think it's a few things. As a student, make part of your daily life gratitude. I call it the gratitude attitude. And here's a statistic for you. We all have 6,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, which is incredible. Kind of blows my mind that we have that many thoughts. I can't keep track of that many, but 85% of those thoughts, or excuse me, 80% of those thoughts are negative thoughts. So you're stuck in this, "I can't, I won't, it's too hard, I don't have the time." 80% of the thoughts are negative. 95% of the thoughts are repetitive. They keep going. And so we've got to be able to replace the negative thoughts with positive thoughts,
Mhm.
and positive people. in our lives and people that have the can-do attitude and are going to work hard and have the resilience. Because by association with those people, it rubs off, right? And if you
Mhm.
can go from 80% negative to 70%, I mean, that'd be transformational in your life. And I think one way to do that is what I call the attitude of gratitude. And the simple idea is make it a habit to tell people in your own words, thank you. That's great. I appreciate you. I wanted to do that when I got out of the hospital. I wanted to continue that, right? I wanted to continue that. So I put a post-it on my mirror in my bathroom. And this is about changing habits,
Mhm.
right? We get stuck in our ways. And we all make New Year's resolutions. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to study harder at school, whatever it is. But it's lost in a week or two if we can't form a new habit. And a habit takes, anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks, research would say, to form a new habit. You haven't
Mhm.
formed it in a week or two. So that post-it says, be the world's best. And I see it every time I brush my teeth, every time I shave, every time I shower. There's one more S in there, which I won't say on the podcast. And uh, that's my reminder to go out into the world and tell people you're the world's best. And I say that. And for me, that's very comfortable, natural language at this point. I
Mhm.
was in line at the coffee shop about 2 months ago here in Minnesota. It was 20 below. And I'm with two police officers just in line waiting for our coffee. And I turned to them and I said, hey, life's hard as a police officer in general. I appreciate what you do, but man, it's 20 below out. It's got to be even harder when it's this cold. And they chatted with me and they said, yeah, it is. And here's how it's harder. And I looked at them in a very genuine, sincere way and said, I appreciate what you do in our community. You are the world's best. And I tell you, the elevation of happiness and smile from them is fantastic. And when you tell people they're the world's best, you can see them light up. It helps your happiness too, but not only your happiness, but it elevates your performance and the performance of others around you. So that's one simple thing people can do. Uh, One other simple thing I'd encourage people to do, it's called the 5% rule. So 2 months before my cardiac arrest, I went fly fishing with my son in Montana, the Sigma Chi.
Mhm.
He's a second year med student now, and he's an excellent fly fisherman. I'm horrible. I've been like two, three times. But I did manage to catch the Montana trifecta, as he called it, which is a cutthroat trout, a brown trout, and a rainbow trout. I think he was just being nice to me and made up the idea that it was the Montana trifecta. Um, but we're fishing with his pastor. He brought his pastor fly fishing, and the pastor says, have you read the podcast or read the book 4,000 Weeks? Nope, never heard of it. I'm fly fishing. Why are you telling me about this? I didn't say that out loud, but that's what I was thinking.
Sure.
In one ear, out the other ear. But all I took away was 4,000 weeks is how long you have to live when you're born. So for everyone out there, you're in your 20s and you're in your college. I was invincible then. And
Mhm.
a lot of us think we are, right? And take risks and live life hard. That's awesome. But when you think about 4,000 weeks is 80 years, that's how long you're going to live. Weeks are a different perspective. So when I came out of my cardiac arrest, I had a choice. I could crawl up into a ball and stay in my house and worry I was going to die tomorrow, the next day, the next year. My father's 95. Wow. I mean, that'd be amazing to live to be 95 and be healthy. But I
Mhm.
put a stake in the ground that said, I'm going to live 1,000 weeks, which is 20 years. 20 years. And I felt like I could really make a difference in the world in those 20 years by helping people be the world's best version of themselves. But break it down, 1 year out of 20 is 5%. So that's 20 Christmases, it's 20 Easters, it's 20 summers, whatever it is. For my son, it'll take about 8 years to be a doctor. That's 10%. 10% of your life to be a doctor of
Yeah.
those 4,000 weeks. And that's easy to go. 20 years is a long time. Okay, but 5% every year is 5% of what you have left. Break it down to a day. What's important for you today? Can you spend 5% on that? And do 5% of 24 hours. And I know a lot of students don't sleep. I can remember those days.
Oh yeah.
If you got a full 24 hours, 5% is only 72 minutes. If you sleep, well, 14 hours, okay, 14 hours, 5% of that is 42 minutes. spend it on the important things in your school, the important things with your family, with your friends, and the things that take time, right? If you have a final coming up, it ain't gonna work to cram, although we all did it or are doing
Mhm.
it, where, cram the day before. But if you have a big project and can spend that 42 to 72 minutes every day for 2 weeks, wow, fantastic. Uh, that'll remove a lot of barriers and stress and help you do better.
Excellent tips. I really like it. Man, you've been so blessed in your lifetime. My goodness. I mean, not only with, this incident and being able to come back, but also just being blessed to work with some of the world's best people and companies. I mean, Accenture, Ben and Jerry's, the Mayo Clinic, United Health Group, General Mills, I mean, and on and on and on. What makes all of these businesses so successful?
Yeah. Uh, so when I was a senior in college, I had dinner. My uncle lived in Chicago, and he was a Vietnam War vet. And I had an offer from Accenture and some other companies.
Mhm.
And I said, "Where should I go work?" And he said one simple thing, and I didn't know what it meant at the time, but he said, "You should go to work for Accenture." It was Anderson Consulting at the time, right? Part of the Big Eight.
Mhm.
And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because they will teach you how to do business the right way." Okay. You know what that means as a senior in college. But I did it. I followed his advice and went there. And what I would say all these great companies have in common is a methodology and a process and a way to do things. And especially early in your career, if you can go somewhere and learn from the best about the best process, the best methodology, then that'll carry you forward for everything else you do. But all those companies have that in common and different methodologies and processes, right? Mayo Clinic, how to give the best patient care.
Right.
You know, when I was at Accenture, it was, how to code the best programs and do it in an efficient manner. And, here's the methodology, here's the process, go. Uh, so I think that's the thing in common.
Nice, nice. I really like that. So choose wisely to all of our college students when you decide on your first job, because that can really set up the rest of your life for better or for worse, right?
Yeah.
And you also worked on a lot of teams along the way, including, of course, Sigma Chi. So what do you think it takes to be a great teammate?
Yeah. I think supporting each other and cheering for each other, celebrating the good, supporting in the bad times, knowing your role. I've been on teams where I've been a leader, I've been on teams where I've been a follower, and you have to adapt and know your role and place to contribute to the whole. We're not always chiefs, and that's okay, but knowing and understanding the role. Um, yeah, and I think in general, just enjoying it and having fun.
Yeah.
No one wants to be around the negativity.
Mhm.
So be a positive teammate, right? Out there for good. And
Mhm.
win or lose, there's lots of ways to be positive, and positive, you're going to win more. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah, and hopefully you learn something. Listen, now, not everything is going to go your way 100% of the time, but hopefully you learn something from that. And that's a good way to look at some of the times when you do lose a game, and hopefully you win more than you lose, of course. That's important. Now, earlier you said that 80% of your thoughts are really these negative thoughts, and I agree with that. I think if we stop to think about all of the things that we think about all throughout the day, there's going to be a lot of negative stuff in there. So, how do you replace all of those thoughts of "I can't do it" with your attitude of gratitude? I mean, I think it's easier said than done.
Part of it is success breeds success, right?
Uh-huh.
John Wooden said
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And who you party with matters, who you
Mm.
study with matters. And make a choice to be with the people that are more positive and aren't complaining and whining and always finding everything that's wrong. That will rub off on you. And you can choose to be that person yourself. But if you're around other people that have that positivity, it will help change you. The other thing, I put the post-it on my mirror. But whatever the habit is that you want to change, and for me, that was about being positive, right? Literally tell people you're the world's best. But to change a habit requires repetition. And so if it's about studying, right, you got to study your chemistry more, and you always find it difficult to find the time. Well, throw your chemistry book in front of the door of your dorm So you can't open the door of your dorm without seeing your chemistry book. And when that's at least a mental reminder to do it, right?
Mhm, mhm,
If you want to be more healthy, right? You want to lose weight while you're at college, you want to work out more because you're studying too hard, right? Because working out will help your mental health a lot, right? It's so good for your brain and heart and everything else. So take your tennis shoes or your gym bag, pack it, leave it in front of your front door. So you can't open that without tripping over your sneakers or picking up your gym bag. It sounds silly, but it's just a small reminder of you committed to this. Okay, do it. And you have to do it again and again and again and again to rewire your brain
mhm,
and the habits.
mhm. I like this discussion. I think it's really good in terms of changing the habits and trying to be the positive person on the team. All of those things are good. The other thing that I see with the college students today is they are so afraid of failure. But the reality is, all of us have failed at something. I know I failed a million times in
Yeah.
just about every single position that I've ever had,
Yeah.
including fraternity chapter president, right? So I guess the question is, what did you learn in this process? What have you learned from some of the failures in life?
And I've had more than I can count.
Mm,
And, interesting that I never viewed them really as failures.
mhm.
They were not the optimal outcome. They were not being successful.
Yeah.
Right? And opportunities to learn. Every failure is an opportunity to learn. And I love learning from other people. You know, don't have a cardiac arrest before you figure out you need to compliment people more. You can learn that by surrounding yourself with positive people. But oftentimes it does take a screw up, a tragedy, doing something really wrong to get the lesson and learn. So, as much as we can, I think it's important to try and learn from others' failures and others' experiences versus having to, get on the hamster wheel and keep making that mistake. But we do, we all do. And I think you need to forgive yourself, if you're beating yourself up and move on. And the important thing is to get back up and keep trying. And if
That's
you're
it.
around those good teammates, they're still going to love you.
Mhm.
They're still going to cheer you on, and cheer right back with them.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And certainly just getting back up is really the key, at least for me. I mean, I failed at a million things, but I keep getting up and fighting another day. And that has served me well. I've certainly learned a lot in that process. A lot of these things I had to fail in order to really understand what it is that I was trying to accomplish and find a better path. And so all
Yeah.
of that kind of happened, and here I am. So everything worked out, which is great for the college students to kind of think about. So you've given them a lot to chew on. I really enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. And what I really do love is good food. I mean, that is what gets me going. So the next time I end up in Minneapolis, tell me where I should be going for a great bite to eat.
Yeah. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Evanston, Illinois first. There's a place called Buffalo Joe's, which I think my
Okay.
senior year, I ate at Buffalo Joe's 10 times a week. Best buffalo wings I've ever had. But when you come to the Twin Cities, I love sushi.
Yeah,
And there's a wonderful sushi place called Yumi's, Yumi, Yumi's Sushi Bar. And the best place to go would be Excelsior, which is 20 minutes west of Minneapolis. It's a small, really cool town in Excelsior, Minnesota. But Yumi's also has, I think, a St. Paul and a Minneapolis location.
gotcha.
Really one best sushi you can have, which is a weird thing to say in Minnesota because I've had sushi all over the world, but it's pretty good.
Nice. All right. That sounds good to me. I will definitely check that out. And it's funny that you're going to Evanston, Illinois for buffalo wings. I just have to say that, the genesis of the buffalo wing is Buffalo, New York,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, so if you ever get to Buffalo, New York, you let me know. I will tell you the best place to get a really good buffalo wing. And that was also my complete addiction when I was an undergraduate at the University at Buffalo in Buffalo, New York. I tell you what,
Right.
man, I mean, oof, I gained
Right into
more
that.
than my freshman 15 eating buffalo wings just about every day. They were so good that you couldn't stop eating them. But I digress. All right. Well, listen, this has been great. If our listeners, if they want to book you to speak on their college campus, where should they go in order to connect with you?
Yeah, you bet. So my email is sig@betheworldsbest. You can see it right here behind me, betheworldsbest.com. My website is also betheworldsbest.com, and I'm on LinkedIn. Love to connect with people and help them in any way. It's Sig Muller on LinkedIn, and also my business, Be the World's Best, is on LinkedIn as well. And for all the students, if you're not on LinkedIn already, and going to have a professional life after college, get on LinkedIn now. And, I can be the one of the first people you connect with. Just say, hey, I heard you on the awesome Greek University podcast with Dr. Mike.
That sounds like a plan to me. Go and check out Sig's website. It's betheworldsbest.com. And you can also find him on LinkedIn. I totally agree. Every college student who's listening to this podcast right now, go and set up your LinkedIn account and make Sig Muller your first connection. I promise you, he will accept it and just put in the comments that you heard him on the podcast. He will definitely approve. So thank you so much, Sig, for spending some time with us today and sharing all this great information with our college student listeners.
Yeah. And Dr. Mike, thank you for doing this podcast, what you do for the colleges, universities, and the Greek community. You are the world's best for doing that.
Well, thank you very much. You just made me feel very good. You're absolutely right. We don't tell each other that enough. And just hearing that, it really does make you say, you know what? Maybe all that work was worth it. So thank you, Sig. I appreciate that. You made my day. And to our college student listeners, if you also enjoyed this conversation with Sig, which I know that you did, I want you to like it and I want you to share it with other college students that also need to hear that they are the world's best. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.